Welcome to Heartmenders Live with Carol Gordon, where Jesus has been changing hearts and lives since 1987. I'm your host, and my guest today is Frank Alberson. He is helping me lift up the name of Jesus around the world today. Frank is the director of Whitefields, and it's a facility for boys, and I am so excited to have him and learn about Whitefields. I've heard about it, but I haven't really known a lot about it. So I am excited, and I'm glad to welcome Frank today. So first of all, tell me how your pathway that led you to be working with Whitefields.
Okay, well, my pathway was a long and circuitous route, you could say. I was born, my mother was a heroin addict, my father was an alcoholic, and so for the first 6 years of my life I was abused pretty badly and got placed into a hospital for a year to recover from various burns and injuries. During that time I got adopted by a family and moved from New York to Indiana, and the adoption at that point failed, and so at the age of 12 I was placed back into state custody in Indiana and bounced around from shelters to group homes and various places, and ended up actually finishing out my high school years at a Christian military boarding school where I graduated and then was moved into an independent living transitional facility. And that was in Anderson, Indiana. And while I was there, they had me mowing grass and cleaning toilets, and I decided that it was 4 o'clock was when I would wake up I'd have to be at work at 4 a.m. And for an 18-year-old that was just entirely too early. And so I decided that I would try to be the guy who told these people to come in and work at 4 a.m. And the only way that I could do that is if I went to college. And so as I went to college, I was working in Anderson, Indiana, and there's a Church of God school called Anderson University.
Yes,
there.
I've heard of it.
And so on a whim one day I applied, and they accepted me, and so while I was there I had a young man on my dorm floor named Trent Ward, and he was from Oklahoma, and we had about 3 classes together, and so we'd study, we became good friends. He knew that I didn't have any family to kind of celebrate the holidays with, and so he invited me back to Oklahoma for for Christmas time. I went down and flew out, first time on an airplane, and flew out here and met the Ward family, had a wonderful Christmas. They asked me to come back, and during this time, while we were both in college together, a freshman year, he told me the idea of starting a boys' home. And I, just pretty fresh from being out of a boys' home, told him that this was not a good idea. Boys' homes are terrible, you don't want to get into it, blah, blah, blah. And so being freshmen, I really didn't think too much of it, but he blew out his knee and stayed back for the second half of his freshman year, and he was driving around and saw the orphanage in Guthrie and decided that he wanted to check it out more and see where these kids went who were in the orphanage. And about that time, the family, kind of informally adopted me as well and brought me back to Oklahoma. I was still attending school in Anderson, not really understanding all of what was going on in life. And we started to volunteer at a place called the Genesis Project, which is in Arcadia, Oklahoma, as a family.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, Tom and Trent kind of explored starting their own group home and decided that they needed a place where these kids can have some stability. The system in Oklahoma is made for when you get better and you move to a different level of care, usually you have to move across the state to wherever that facility will be. And that means that you have to uproot, you have to leave your friends, your family, and all of your relationships behind and start all over. So they wanted to start a program where they could have all the different levels of care in one place. I graduated college in 2006 with a degree in criminal justice. I thought I was going to be a police officer and rid the world of crime, and do all that good stuff. But during the time of waiting to be hired, I actually got hired by the sheriff's department, worked down at the county jail as a detention officer, moved up to probation officer, and met my wife, got married, and started kind of a family. The police officer gig really never worked out, and so I was working at Big Brothers Big Sisters by this time, and I was asked by my parents in 2009 to come on board as a director of Whitefields. And Whitefields started up, obviously that Tom and Trent Ward funded it and started it up, and opened their doors in 2006. So from 2000 to 2006 there was planning, policy and procedure writing, working with DHS and local people on getting everything off the ground. Buildings were being built, and we opened our doors in 2006. And I started out as a volunteer mentor to one of the boys. And so I was very well familiar with the staff and how things ran and what was going on there. And
had you had some input during some of the things that has they planned?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. But at the same point in time, I was still in college, and so I was off for most of it.
Mm-hmm.
But through my life, they had some input on how to deal with it,
Yeah.
because I was still a little bit wild and crazy back then. And so I got offered to come and be a co-director out there, and to me, you know, making a lot more money and working with family seemed like a no-brainer. And so I started work late in 2009, and have moved up until throughout the years until now I am a director. And so Whitefields brings a pretty near and dear. It's very near and dear to my heart. Every morning
I can see that it would be.
Yeah, I can.
You were one of the boys.
I was, and so I can, you know, usually have pretty good understanding of what's going on with the kids, and you know, we challenge each other at Whitefields to not be just another group home. We're the final place for these kids, and as we've grown, our kids have gotten better, and we've realized the need to add different levels of care to accommodate that. So finally, our final resting spot for our boys, they have 5 levels of care on campus. They start out at 24-hour level of care, which is shift work, so 3 different awake shifts watch out for them. And our boys come in between the ages of 8 to 12, and they've all been physically, sexually, and emotionally abused. The worst stories that you can imagine have happened to them, some so bad that you can't even, you can't even report it on the news. So obviously, along with years of abuse comes years of learned bad behavior and just a lot of work needing to be done. When they come in, all of them don't have parental contact with their family. Their parental rights are terminated. And, you know, the first few years is pretty rough. As they heal, every child heals at his own pace. But at the same point in time, they're able to look around the campus and see that there are different levels of care that they can move to, and they can have more freedoms, and all they have to do is just get better. Unlike other programs, we don't have point sheets. We don't have, we have a consequence and reward system. But there's not the added stress of having to make a point sheet or make a level. For our kids, it's just heal at your own pace and know that we love you. And so for me, as our kids move from the 24-hour awake care level to the house parent model, where they can learn how to live in a family, and that we have 2 sets of couples. They all have their own children, and then they intermingle with ours. And so in that level of care, it's kind of the most important, because they get to learn how a real mother and father and family unit should act. We try to get them healed up to a point from that point where they can move through different levels to our foster care program. 90% of our kids who go into foster care are adopted by that family that they enter into foster care with.
That's the point where they leave Whitefields and go in, or do you have foster families
On campus.
On campus.
We want to
Okay.
keep our thumb and make sure our kids were getting the best care because, after putting a few years of work in, we really feel as if we're the parents too to these kids. And
Yes.
we want them to
So
remain in the same school district.
the house parent situation, there would be more children than there would be in the foster care. It's would be a smaller unit. I see. Okay. I'm trying to get this
We
picture.
have
in my
about 2 to 3 kids in each foster home. We have 3 foster homes right now. And we have about 5 to 6 max running in our house parent cottage. And so for the kids, the house parent cottage level is a way for them to learn how to interact with the family before they get into their own. And I think that it's important because we get to have these couples that just bear their everyday life. There's nothing private once you're acting as a parent. And I know it's hard for our 8-hour shift work staff to deal with the behaviors that they deal with until our kids get better. But I think the most vital part is the parent aspect that the other levels show because there's really no break as a parent. You're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's the hard part. And that's where the real changes begin. And the healing that we've seen is really put to work.
I can see that. Well, you must have some exceptional people working with you.
Yes.
Because not only is it 24/7 with the kids, they still have to maintain a healthy marriage so that they can be healthy parents.
I remember my first group of foster parents. They came in and very gung-ho.
Yeah.
And, he came to me, probably about a year later and said, I can't do this anymore. I can't be a foster father and be a husband. My marriage is having issues, and it's more than we can handle. And so, to save my family, we're going to have to obviously leave, but we'd like to adopt 2 of the kids. And I said, well, your family's more important, than anything else. And so I applaud you as a man for understanding that and also, taking that step. It's a big step. His child, who works at Whitefields, and has went through our system and was adopted by him, is actually graduating here in a couple weeks, and so we're getting ready to hold a big party for him and to celebrate that. But it is a major strain, and to kind of combat that, we do date nights. We give the families money to go out and have their own date night. And we also have older couples from various churches that mentor them and are able to have a sounding board for that marriage and relationship, because it's not always easy when you have teenagers to
it isn't. It's not when you just have your own 2 or 3.
Right, yes. Not to mention kids with backgrounds like ours who excel sometimes at causing strife and problems. And so
I can imagine.
we realize that the marriage aspect, if a healthy marriage equals healthy parenting, which then in turn directly impacts our kids' healing. And so we've placed a great emphasis on family support. We do regular trainings and stuff like that. And,
That's great.
Is
there any of those couples who have parents, or do you bring in other older couples to be grandparents?
Yeah. We make sure that all of our families their extended families know exactly what they're getting in and support it 100%, because the last thing you want is to see somebody say, I'm not really okay with this, and the kids can sense that.
Yeah.
But they also need that support from their parents as well. Mm-hmm. And usually it is older couples that come in and kind of mentor them. And now the beautiful thing is that for our kids, 2 of the kids, they work for their grandparents as well. So we've got a family who is located here in Bethany, and they live on campus, but their extended family still lives in Bethany, and the dad owns Swadley's, and so we're able to, I see him all the time out on campus, and it's just, for us, pretty awesome to see that they're 100% invested in the mission as well.
That's wonderful. I know of some of the work that Swadley's does with their when there's some kind of a hurricane or tornado or something. And we knew some friends that worked with them that took a laundry truck with them.
Yeah.
So there's just so many people in this area that do that kind of work. And but anyway, the back to Whitefield, I think it is was. Do you have any sense that it was getting to know you when he was in college, that Mr. Ward Jr. Really got a hold of what was needed? Had they already had that in their thinking, and you just were the catalyst?
I think I was a small part in it. I think it was on their hearts and on their minds, and I think that the family meant working out at the group homes already, and then here I come along, and I think I was a small part of it, and so it's fun to see that other people share that same mission with me. But definitely, I think I think what we're trying to do is be the family that I had for these kids a lot earlier, and to help them, because even though they're 18, they still need parental support, guidance, and help. And that's where a lot of programs fail, is that once you're 18, adios.
Yes, my grandson worked for Oklahoma Youth Services for a while. He did their camera work, and which they try to help the ones that are goodbye, you're 18 now, to get settled and everything. So there's such a need, because no kid is ready at 18 to just take on the world. Even the kid that goes off to college is not really ready to take on the world, and they kind of think they are, but they're not, and they need that parental connection to stay strong and supportive, and to honor it. And of course our culture doesn't really teach that you need to honor those who are the ones who are bringing you along, but it's so important that they do, and you're actually modeling that. You're modeling that your family stays with you, and that is a wonderful thing to learn with these children that have never seen family as it should be, and you're actually doing the best job of modeling that in a group situation that I have ever heard of. That is wonderful. That is wonderful.
I'd like to think we're doing a pretty good job. We've served roughly around 30 kids so far this year. We've already had 3 adoptions in 2014, and so a lot of kids are healing up, getting better. But at the same point in time, unfortunately for Oklahoma, we rank pretty high up there in child abuse stats and all the negative categories that you can imagine.
I know, I'm aware of that.
For me, I had job security, unfortunately, because there's
I feel the same way about my job. There's always people who need healing.
And it goes back to lots of things, lack of godly morals, socioeconomic factors, and just everything under the sun. But at the same point in time, what we're doing is hopefully breaking that cycle with these kids, so that they can make better choices and have better impulse control when they're older, and also have support so that they don't fall into the cycle.
Yes. Oh yes, because life under quote normal circumstances, whatever that might be, is not easy, and when you've had no foundation built under you for life, and you've had no training of how to deal with trauma or how to deal with situations, and you've lived your life with nothing but fear and anger, it's just an impossibility to grow like you're supposed to. And as you know from first-hand experience, and I know from some theory and some experience, and to have people committed to the Lord who's much in concern with all of these precious ones, to have people that will give their lives essentially to His service, to serve them, is amazing. It's wonderful. It's what His plan is for us. If we'll all do our part, we can bring a lot more healing to our culture than if we don't. If we just say, "Oh, there's nothing I can do. It's too bad." We can all do something.
That's right. And for me personally, it's kind of brought me. We were, my family was searching for a church home, and a lot of the people at Whitefields attend a church called Church of the Harvest, and we finally found a good home church out of that. A couple of years ago, we had our recreation coordinator had lymphoma and died from that, and was able to watch a lot of our staff kind of grow closer to the Lord through that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been very interesting to see that. This has definitely been able to bring me a little bit closer. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of bad decisions still being made, but we pray for forgiveness every day and keep plugging on. And so for us, I do think that it was my steps were ordered. I don't know what the future holds, and every time I try to plan for the future, I usually end up changing my plans. We everything from when we're going to open up a house to who we're going to put in the house usually changes.
Yeah, listening's better than planning.
Yeah, I try to make plans, and usually my best plans are usually, they change a few times before they become final, and so we've just decided that it's going to be whenever things happen, they happen, and we're just going to roll with it, and so for me, that's kind of our life story. And then obviously it's nice because Whitefields has the Christian. People ask us, "Are you faith-based program?" And yes and no. Department of Human Services kind of frowns on that, but at the same point in time, Whitefields itself comes from the Bible verse, "Look to the hills, there white with harvest." The harvest is plentiful, the work